Today, we're catching up with Ingrid Buday, the inspiring founder of No More Noise Toronto, who is on a mission to tone down the bustling city of Toronto. Just a little bit, though. Since her last appearance, the organization has skyrocketed from 240 to 1,600 members, all united in the fight against noise pollution. From innovative surveys to strategic use of GIS technology, Ingrid has been making waves in her community. So grab your headphones or maybe turn down the volume as we dive into what's happening in the world of urban tranquility. Welcome back to Geographical Thinking. I'm Michelle Brake, and I'll be your guide as we explore ideas, stories, and conversation through the lens of geography. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome back Ingrid Buday, the founder of No More Noise Toronto. After facing the roar of noise pollution firsthand, she launched a platform where fellow city dwellers affected by noise can connect, share experiences, and push for a quieter, healthier Toronto. With a mix of data collection, community insights, and smart advocacy, Ingrid is helping pave the way to a city that sounds better for everyone. Thank you for joining me today, Ingrid, and welcome back to Geographical Thinking.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It is great to be back and to share with you where we are today.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, for those that need a bit of a refresher from when Guan chatted with you last year, can you tell us about No More Noise Toronto and what you focus on?
Well, thanks so much, Michelle. No More Noise Toronto is a grassroots organization, and we've decided that we focus on the noises that wake us up, keep us up, and disturb us at all hours. So this is mostly about outside noises that people hear from outside their home, like motor vehicles and construction, and more. And so, as the saying goes, if you don't have data, all you have is an opinion. So we're collecting the data to validate people's experiences and also share the health impacts of noise pollution. We're also process oriented. And so, for example, we're looking at the ways people report moving vehicle noise, and we found out that it is broken, and that's a problem. So between being data oriented and also process oriented, this is what's setting us apart from other groups.
And that's great to hear. I know data is so important in helping us make informed choices, knowing what is happening in the world around us. And I think bringing that spatial element is personally something very close to my heart. So it's nice to see we're both on the same page there. And I think that's a great intro to get everyone on the same page. I'm sure a lot has happened in the past year. Can you give us some insight into what you've been up to and what kind of growth the movement has seen?
It's been amazing. The last time we were on the show, we were just really just kind of getting going and using our Not 311 noise report and getting ready for the City of Toronto's noise bylaw review. So that happened in January, and we mobilized so many people, and we had over 40 people make deputations, which means speaking directly to city committees. And now we have this excuse me, now we have this growing group of people who are willing to share their noise story, understand the civic process, and by doing so, they actually feel better. They are influencing policy, and the activity that they're doing is overcoming the apathy that many people feel when it comes to noise. So we're showing up at different committees. Yesterday, we showed up at the Toronto Police Services Board, and we're hosting events to host the public, to educate the public, and policy and decision makers. So we're so thankful to have become a recognized partner with a number of city divisions. We need to work together to solve the noise problem. And so it's so great to be working with them.
Wow, that's great to hear how that partnership and has grown over the past year and hearing how many people are really mobilizing surrounding it and again saying, you know what, apathy is boring. Let's really engage in this process and make a better community for all of us. Now, I know the last time you were on, No More Noise had around 240 members, and now it's grown to 1,600. Hearing how much you're doing in the community is pretty exciting. I'm wondering, how has that larger community influenced the projects or actions that No More Noise has taken in the last year or is even looking to take in the coming year?
This whole process has been organic. And so I felt that nothing like this has really been done before. So as I was looking out my condo windows and going, I wonder what's going to happen out of this. We've had this community start to grow, and faster than I actually thought it would be. And so what I did was I now have a member survey because I wanted to understand what the people who sign up, what's important to them. Because I know what's important to me, but if I need to connect with the audience and our members. And so I have a survey where people can share their noise sources. And I've learned that motor vehicle noise is almost always the most common noise source. In fact, 75% of my members have indicated that it disturbs them. So I want to do the greatest good for the most people. So this is moving vehicle noise will be a major focus for the coming year. It should be the easiest to solve, as most, if not all, of the loud vehicles are illegal. Other noise sources are just not quite so cut and dried. What's also clear is that noise pollution is a health hazard. The stories that I hear of people who are trapped in a situation that they cannot change and they're exposed to noise is heartbreaking. They're impacted by noise constantly with no respite, and we have no defense, right? We can't close our ears, and our bodies never ever stop listening. So, Toronto Public Health is actually reviewing their 2019 noise action plan. And this was a direct outcome of all of the deputations that we had in January. One of the councillors basically said, Toronto Public Health, you need to come back with this action plan. So, they're going to present their findings in the spring of 2025. And this is a huge opportunity for people to speak up and share how noise negatively impacts our health. We need protection from noise pollution, which is the number 2 urban environmental health hazard right after air pollution. So we've done a whole bunch for air pollution. Now we need to focus on noise pollution.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to hear that the last noise action plan was 2019. We're now approaching 2025. A lot has happened in that time between even just going from 2019 to 2020, where there was a severe reduction in the noise happening outside. But as things have steadily come back over the past few years and people are being more active in their community, I can only imagine how maybe we're not used to being together in some of the same ways and making different noises than we're used to. I can understand this is probably a big undertaking going into it. So it's great to hear that you, as well as No More Noise Toronto, are on the case.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been, I think the whole shift of the pandemic has actually made No More Noise Toronto possible because this is an online community. And before Zoom, what's Zoom? Like now everybody is quite comfortable in logging in online and doing all of that. The other thing is that, yeah, we had those first couple months of the pandemic where it was quiet and it was
Mhm.
like, oh, you mean our cities could actually sound this way? Now, granted, we didn't have all the vehicle traffic and all of that kind of stuff, but that kind of was this little glimmer, I would say, of hope of, oh, I can sleep with my window open. Wow. And the other thing is that people are home more now. So the leaf blowers that come en masse every other day in green leafy
Mhm.
neighborhoods is also something that I think is new, where people used to be at the office, so that wasn't a problem. Now they're working from home, and it's become a problem. And so that's where the city is now starting to take all noise reports at all times, and that is again because of our advocacy saying you have an incomplete data set. If you're not taking the data points, if you're not taking that information, then how will you know if it becomes a problem or not? So the deputations that we had in January made a really big difference.
Okay. And I know you mentioned some of the technology aspects and things that we've become more comfortable with over the past few years. Since you're operating as a one person team, how do you manage the demands of advocacy and technology and community growth? And are you considering expanding your team or that support base?
Yeah. So part of it, my background is in HR and also IT. And so what I've been doing is I've been learning what platforms people like to use. So, for example, Eventbrite, not so great. Register directly on Zoom, that's just fine.
Hmm.
So, I've looked at how these different platforms work and then to see what is the easiest way to engage people, because if it's not easy, people won't do it. And so that's also where I have tried to build No More Noise Toronto to be scalable. I can do a webinar for 5 people. I can do a webinar for 500. It's no more work on my part. So that's just where establishing those internal processes and becoming really lean and light and nimble has been kind of an interesting challenge. But now that we have a base and I have this member survey, I am starting to understand what people, what engages people and what they want to do. And so that's where I'm now going to work with our supporters and organize us into working groups for noise sources that matter to each person. I can't know everything, but I can have a SME or a subject matter expert in amplified sound, in stationary noise, in construction noise, for example. And many people have offered to help, which is just awesome. And this is where that piece, people have felt helpless, and noise can actually create a condition called induced hopelessness because there's nothing we can do. So if we keep on being subjected to noise that we can't have any recourse for, we gradually just get apathy. We get this induced hopelessness or apathy. And so
Mhm.
one of my goals is to engage people so that they know where they can fit in that spectrum of engagement and feel like they have something to offer.
Okay. And I think that's really interesting there with the action overcoming apathy at a community level is really neat. Like it's not a new idea, but I think being able to recognize that is really important to get that mobilization. And I'm wondering how have partnerships looked in supporting things? I know you said bringing in subject matter experts. Is there connections with schools nearby or with different organizations that maybe work in this space?
Yeah, well, last year, things have happened. Great things have happened on the thinnest of threads, and so I just happened to be over at somebody's place for dinner, and they were mentioning a University of Toronto program where they were offering work students for professional work experience, and I was like, oh, I would love that. And coming from my HR background, I was like, oh, I love onboarding and I love teaching people and working with others, and so I applied, and I had one student last term from September until April, and they analyzed all of my not 311 noise reports with Python and Jupyter notebooks,
Mhm.
and so the not 311 noise report is actually an Esri product, and this was the one thing that really started to get me going on noise and Esri was that people could enter in a data point basically and enter in some information, and then we could share that information back to them, which was really powerful. Again, that action defeating apathy. And so we had over 12,000 not 311 noise reports. And so we did a buffer analysis and things like that. This term, I have 4 students and I have designed our overnight waste collection noise survey. So they help build the story map, they help build the survey, and now they're doing a dashboard to show the results. And so from that, we learned that 25% of respondents are woken up 3 to 4 times per week between 11 a.m. and 7 a.m. And the second most common time that people are being woken up is between 3 and 5 a.m. So can you imagine getting woken up by garbage truck collection? We're not talking the little bins. We're talking the big bins that have 107 decibel bangs every time they pick up and drop that bin. And so we've learned that 80% of people who have overnight waste collection noise have moderate to severe disruption of their sleep. And this is no surprise. We can figure that, but it's really nice to see the data that supports that. And so now amplified sound is coming to the city committee on November 26th. And so what they did for waste collection, they are now doing for amplified sound. And while I need to invest time in sharing and teaching and helping, I love providing meaningful experiences and work to their studies. So it's been great.
Yeah, and then I think it's interesting you mentioned the overnight waste collection. So I've been in Toronto this week, and during my time here while staying downtown, the past 2 nights, I have been woken up between 3 and 5 a.m. from hearing a garbage truck with that bang, and it's a little jarring to get. It's like, okay, well now I'm awake. How many more bangs are there going to be? Like, what's going on? Because it's so silent. Other than that, and it just I can understand. I can now empathize a lot with what's happening here.
And that's the thing is a lot about sound is everybody has an individual relationship to sound. So we may go into a place that is, a concert, which is 100 or 110 decibels, and we are welcoming that and we're ready for it. But when you're sleeping at night and you have no control over that, and suddenly bang, not only does your heart rate increase, but you are woken up from a time like sleep is so important. It's when our brain releases chemicals to restore our bodies and create an equilibrium in our nervous system. And so you've had that one night. Can you imagine if that happens 3 to 5 times a week, consistently every day, every week of the year? Eventually you get pretty tired of it and your nerves get frayed, and this is the experience that people are finally able to share, and that is powerful. And then we can share that back to city committees and tell them how impactful their decisions are on our health.
Yeah. And I know you said you've chosen the ArcGIS technology to build your story maps and manage data. I'm wondering, how has this helped you to streamline that work, and what new GIS projects do you have planned for the future?
Well, things are always changing, and so I need to make a lot of edits to the contents of my website. So my website, nomorenoisetoronto.com, is actually a collection of story maps. So I have a web developer, and he basically creates that landing page, and then what I do is I share the URL with him and give him a cover image, and then after that I control everything behind the scenes, and that just saves me a ton of time, saves me a ton of money. And Story Maps is just an excellent platform to add rich media, because we're talking about sound, we're talking about video, and I can put in YouTube videos, I can add in audio clips. And actually there's so much more to Story Maps that I haven't really yet discovered. And so I'm hoping with my students that we're going to be doing it. So that has allowed me just to own my website literally. However, I just listened to a webinar from Esri on the ArcGIS Online functionality. And now that my website, it's time for a little bit of a refresh. And I think I'm going to be building experience builders and build them for every noise source, because people relate most to what matters to them. And for some, it's vehicles, and for some, it's waste collection, for some, it's construction. So I'm trying to reach people where they're at and with what matters to them. And I think experience builders are going to be a really neat functionality to explore and build.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what you do with them. And hearing how you've used the technology, it makes sense that GIS and a tool like Story Maps and even Experience Builder have a place in the work that you're doing. I'm wondering, how did you get here to GIS and the ArcGIS platform to help as a tool with this project?
It's been a long journey. I grew up in BC, and so with the topographical maps from there, I could just look over a map for hours, and it felt like the map would just the longer you looked at it, the more you saw. And then when I worked at Terranet, I learned about digital mapping and Esri, because Terranet manages the land registry database for the province of Ontario. And that's where I worked in HR, and I saw what these people were doing and how we were building these maps, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. And so I always wanted to get back to mapping, because maps to me make so much sense in for so many different applications. So during the first winter of the pandemic, I took an introductory GIS course at the University of Toronto, and that's where I saw Survey 123. And it just felt like it was so powerful, because how many times have we all taken surveys, but we don't know how we measure with against other people, or we don't know what the results are, and so I just felt like this was a really nice circle where Survey 123 gets pulled into a dashboard, gets pulled into a story map, and it's all publicly accessible. So by that time I was already impacted by noise, and I was kind of like, okay, how am I going to do this, and what am I going to do? And Esri functionality and the ArcGIS Online toolkit was the answer for me.
Okay, and how do you envision GIS evolving further within your organization as you continue to grow and advocate for noise regulation in Toronto?
I'm really excited to get into the experience builders. I think it'll be an interesting shift. My website right now basically has, as I had an idea or as I thought what people wanted to know, I built a story map. Well, now with the experience builders, I can build that on, let's just say, amplified sound. And then if I can get people to participate in that data collection over time and in an organized way so that it's presented, so basically people could go into an experience builder, and then here is the map. Here is how you can get involved in amplified sound. Here's the health impacts of amplified sound, and have that all organized in a way that people can use it wherever they are. And that's the other big powerful thing is Esri's global. And so not only can we analyze noise in a hyper local intersection by intersection way, we can also look at this in a regional, national, global lens. And I think that's going to be very interesting, because now I'm starting to connect with people outside of Canada, and they like what I'm doing, and I want to support them. So this is kind of going to kind of be the next steps, is how we can make No More Noise. And maybe it's not No More Noise Toronto, maybe it's just No More Noise
Mhm.
support other organizations in their noise advocacy.
Yeah, and I think that seems to be like a natural progression that comes with this kind of work where you start locally, you're figuring out what is the process, what are the tools that we need, but then it sets itself up to be a framework that can be applied elsewhere, that we can further this message, we can share what we've learned, those best practices to really start making a difference. So I think that's really exciting to hear.
I'm super excited for the future.
And I know, thinking to the future in our conversations previously, you've mentioned that real change could take even up to 5 years to see. What kind of milestones or goals do you hope to achieve in the coming year to move closer to that vision?
I really hope it happens sooner than 5 years.
I know.
We there's so many people that, like, people choose where they live for a reason, and it's not like we can up and move anywhere. We choose to be close to our work. We choose to be close to family. We choose this. So I really hope relief comes sooner than that. So, as I was saying, next year we will be focusing on moving vehicle noise, and not just in the Toronto area, as moving vehicle noise is actually under the Highway Traffic Act. So, that's provincial. And then, as my subject matter experts come up through the organization and get more comfortable, then we can possibly also tackle other noise sources. And then, with that knowledge that we gain here in Toronto and Ontario, we can hopefully go to other provinces and maybe even down to the States. And just see where it goes from here. I'm very curious to see how this will develop.
Yeah. And thinking about the past year, could you share any memorable or surprising moments that have reaffirmed your commitment to this cause?
Everyone agrees that it's a problem, and the thing is that most people just don't know what to do about it. So we're here to help figure out how to reduce noise pollution and give everyone the right reasons to do something about it, because the solutions are there. It's just we need the political will to do something, and that is where the people's experiences and stories just all come together, and provide the motivation to make the changes that we need, so that we can all have a good sleep at night.
Yeah. And I think acknowledging there that the community and coming together for those shared experiences is really important. How can people find you, get involved, help with the movement?
I love that question. Thank you so much. So people can get involved by going to our website, which is nomoreNoiseToronto.com. And up at the top, there is a button that's called Sign Up for Noise News. And that is where we have our 1,600, well, that is where we have our 1,600 members. And they get the newsletter, which keeps people informed of what's coming up and how we've developed. But more importantly, that is how people get action alerts, and that is a way that they can find out what they can do literally within the next week or two, what they can do to make a difference. And the way the city council works and the committees is everything operates on a really short timeline. So a week before a meeting is when I get the agenda, and we will know if something for noise is coming up with that. And so I have a week to prepare, and people have a week to engage. So that's where we kind of have these short action alerts. But in the newsletter, we talk about longer range. And the thing that's coming up, which is really exciting, is in the spring of 2025, Toronto Public Health is coming up with that noise action report. And that is going to be a really big opportunity for people to get involved. So I hope they visit the noise site, which is nomoreNoiseToronto.com, and join us on a meetup or in an online event, or come to one of the events that we have coming up, because we're a community that is impacted but we're getting organized and we're getting energized to make a difference for the future.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ingrid. And it's been great to hear what's happened in the past year. Maybe we'll have to revisit things in a year or so and see what's happened again.
I would love it. Thank you so much for having me, and I really want to thank Esri Canada and Esri Inc. for the support that I have from them. It's fabulous to have Esri as a partner as well.
Amazing. And that's a wrap for this enlightening episode of Geographical Thinking. Ingrid has taken us on a journey through the sounds of the city, sharing her experiences with No More Noise Toronto and the innovative use of GIS technology in the fight against noise pollution. From growing a passionate community to advocating for quieter streets, her story inspires us all to consider the impact of our environment. Be sure to join us next time for more geographical insights, and remember, every sound has a story. Let's make sure it's one worth hearing. If you're looking for more information about the technical side of GIS, check out the Spatial Report podcast where Mark and Maggie dive into the latest and greatest in the world of GIS. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep thinking geographically.